And now a story that's sort of coronavirus related, but it didn't start out that way. Just as St. Louis was beginning to think of itself as a football town again, the XFL season was canceled. Anne-Marie Berger was already working on a story about the Battle Hawks when it happened. It's still a good story, it just has that unexpected twist.
It's been 4 years since football fans in St. Louis have cheered on a football team at the Dome. But by the crowds, the noise, and the fanatics, you wouldn't know this was the first home game of the very first season for the St. Louis Battle Hawks, one of 8 brand new XFL teams. The XFL announced in 2018 the rebirth of what they're calling the Fan First Football League, a fast-paced game that's entertaining but true to the sport.
Got some big news coming up.
St. Louis native Kurt Huntsecker is the president of the St. Louis Battle Hawks.
From day one, even before the name Battle Hawks and the brand was born, we knew that we had something special here because we were going to build the first homegrown pro football team. The previous 2 teams came from somewhere else. And here in St. Louis, we all know being St. Louis born and raised means a lot.
St. Louis fans were on board early.
It just feels great. I mean, you look around here, the atmosphere is insane. This is a football city. We love it, and we're so excited.
High television ratings and a sold-out first home game proved St. Louis was ready for some football. St. Louis was the only city selected for the XFL that doesn't share the market with an NFL team.
It certainly helps, and I think at the beginning it certainly could have hurt just because of the history of pro football in St. Louis. But by stating right out of the gate that we were homegrown, it allowed us to be very present in future and very positive as we engage the community.
And no one seems to mind that the Battle Hawks are taking over the Rams' turf. And I mean all of it. Not only are they playing at the Dome, they practice at the former Rams Park.
Yeah, I grew up 15 minutes from where we're sitting today.
Just like the Battle Hawks, the team's starting center, Brian Folkerts, is also St. Louis born and raised. He's a former Hazelwood Central Hawk and coincidentally, a former St. Louis Ram.
So, we're just a supplemental league for super fans of football that, once the Super Bowl's over and they get left with a void in their life, and that's where we come in. We're a bunch of guys, college all-stars or former NFL players that we're all just playing for the love of the game, and we just can't seem to give it up.
You just can't quit.
Yep.
Now, the previous iteration of the XFL from 1999 to 2001 combined extreme elements of professional wrestling with football. It wasn't successful. And while WWE CEO Vince McMahon still owns the league, Huntsecker is clear. XFL 2020 is very different.
I mean, it was really an entertainment focused entity, whereas the XFL 2020 is rooted entirely on the product, the game of football.
This is true football. This is the football everyone knows. It's not the old body slam, WWE wrestling football of the 2000s. But so this is real football that everyone's going to recognize, and we're putting a good show out for people.
Are you getting hazed over here?
Yeah, they're razzing me.
The clear delineation between the 2 XFLs came when the rule enhancements were unveiled.
You saw that it was going to be fast-paced. You saw it was all about player safety, and that is when it really started changing the narrative for people where, and it's also a generation later of this is new for a lot of people, but it also kind of, hey, the past is the past, this is all about the future, this is all about people who love football.
And clearly this city loves football. The home opener on February 23rd brought over 28,000 football fans together, filling the lower bowl of the Dome, selling out the first game in the XFL.
There's a sense of, we've been doing this for decades, walking around the tailgates the first 2 home games, that it's our first and second home game, and yet friends who have tailgated for years are coming back together, whether it's from the last team or when I was a kid, the football Cardinals were here.
Caw-caw! There
there's about 40 of our friends who are in the same section. Yeah, we're all the Mafia, yeah.
That is awesome.
And I'm the Godfather.
And you're
We're here to support the community and support the team.
That love of football has always been in St. Louis, and we're really just kind of tapping into that.
A regular XFL season runs 10 weeks, filling the gap between the Super Bowl and the start of the NFL season. But like all sports, on every level, their season was canceled due to the COVID-19 outbreak. Hunt Secker tweeted, "St. Louis, you made the start of this season the most fun I've ever had professionally, and we're just getting started. Stay safe, and remember that I love you all." And no doubt St. Louis will be waiting, ready to cheer on the 2021 Battlehawks. St. Louis waited a long time for football, and now we need it more than ever.